Alrighty. Well, that was quick. The draft came and gone. I felt like it was a lot faster this time around. I think they reduced the time
Mhm.
of draft for each team. Um, yeah, I'm really excited about the players the Bears got.
Mhm.
Curious to see what you thought about the Broncos, Corstian.
Yeah.
First of all, how are you doing? You can dive right into that or just talk about your weekend. Up to you, man.
Yeah, doing good. The weekend was pretty good. I committed to watching the Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, and Return of the King, which is the second and the third movie. Um, just for fun. It's so long, but
Yeah,
it's
how long was that entire watch party? It's crazy.
because it's the extended edition, so it's like 4 hours per movie or something, and and so what typically happens is I'll be in like a Lord of the Rings mood, or I'll like be hanging out with someone, and it's like they've never seen Lord of the Rings before, and so I'm like, oh cool, maybe we should watch it. So then we watch Fellowship of the Ring, but then it's so long that we never end up watching any of the second or third one. So I've seen the first one like 20 times maybe, and then like up until recently, I've seen probably the second and third one once, and I was like when I was pretty young, and so I was like, you know what, it's been such a long time, and I never get around to watching the second and third one. I'm gonna go sit down and actually commit to watching the second and third one just to like have it fresher on my mind. Just because again it's been so long, and it's like I remember bits and pieces of both those last two movies, but um, and obviously the overarching storyline, but um, there were aspects that I was like, wait, what happened again, and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, maybe I should go and rewatch it.
That's commitment. That's
Yeah,
commitment. Spending 8 hours of your weekend just watching Lord of the
literally.
Rings. I blame you. I don't blame you. I was doing basketball runs, like watching basketball, and then
Hmm.
yeah, grabbing dinner with friends, church stuff. So yeah, mix of all a couple things, but
Hmm.
you got the better end of that. I was at Waterfall Glen though, so I will say that
Hmm.
it was a perfect day to go hiking,
Yeah,
actually. So like, I was surprised. I was not expecting that out of 50-degree weather, but what do you know?
yeah.
Alrighty. Obviously, with the draft happening, we're gonna keep it pretty simple today. We're gonna talk about the draft classes we did like from each team, and the draft classes we didn't like. So,
Hmm.
pretty simple. I think Corstan's got a list of three each, as well as I, and we'll kind of trade. And we did not collaborate on this. We did
Hmm.
not discuss which teams we're going to talk about. So it's fully possible we might talk about the same, but I think it's good for discussion and see like, oh, what do we value out of like the same like talent pool that's available,
Hmm.
what we deem as good or bad, and there's no right or wrong answers, obviously, because you might not see who pans out well for 3 4 years. So,
Here, just a
sounds
second.
like sounds like your dog is in agreement. Okay. All right. So that's how we start the episode here. But yeah, I mean a lot of great draft classes and speaking from the Bears personally, I know it was a little bit frustrating to see them not pick defensive lineman, defensive end or defensive tackle, but the Dieneman pick really important. Spencer Jones or Logan Jones, let's just say. I'm thinking about the Nuggets player because I'm watching the playoffs. Whatever. Anyway, like some of the offensive lineman pick and the picks they made at wide receiver, I was a little skeptical of, but I understood the reasoning and kind of I trust Ben Johnson when he does picks like these, like Sam Roush. We just talked about as a recent tight end um, to monitor from Corstian's list. So that was good to see him pan out that way, um, end up on the Bears. And but I will say this: Jordan Vandenberg, defensive tackle out of Georgia Tech, really, really key player. Um, he actually tested brilliantly on the athletic scoring chart. So he's an eye to keep your eye on for the Bears. even though they got him in the 6th round, I think is a really great defensive tackle. So overall, I've really been happy about the Bears draft class. But they are not on my list out of the draft classes I liked or disliked. So welcome back, Corstian.
Hello,
I think your
hello.
I think your dog is trying to tip away like who I'm going to pick as the first team I
Yeah.
liked out of all the draft classes. So I'll go ahead and get us started here. I already talked about the Bears draft class while you're away, but the reason why I had the Browns, I don't have this in any particular order.
Hmm.
I probably have my second team as my favorite class if I had to rank the 3 teams, but I really love what the Browns did in this draft to
Hmm.
surround like what they whether it's Shador like the next future quarterback
Hmm.
that they have. Spencer Fano, great tackle. I thought it was a little bit high personally to pick that specific player, but he's a really good tackle, and that's a great way to start your draft class, and then to follow it up with Casey Conception and Denzel Boston.
Hmm.
You're you're trying to expand your offense. It's not just going to go through Harold Fannin Jr. So I love that they did that. And somehow Emmanuel McNeil Warren slipped to them at the end of the second.
Hmm.
That's not what I was expecting at all. They he was getting mock drafted at the end of the first, so to see him fall to them at that was pretty exciting. Not going to get into Taylor Green, but like I think just from an overall philosophy, it really struck out to me that they focus on offensive line receiver early in the draft.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like I also agree that that was the Browns had a good draft. um, but yeah, it's like you look at the I guess overarching group of quarterbacks here, right? And it's like it isn't. I mean, it really is. I guess the 2 first-round quarterbacks, and then everybody else. I guess in the eyes of the NFL. Um, and so yeah, you mentioned like Taylor Green, and it's like maybe he is kind of in the loop for the quarterback competition, but it's really whoever they roll with this season, and if they stink, they'll probably be in another position to have a high draft pick to land a guy who might more ideally be their quarterback in the following year. And so by drafting all these weapons, these O linemen, it creates a easier place to acclimate for a rookie quarterback with all these guys entering year 2. So I like that pick too. But I figured that honestly you probably have the Browns in this list, so I decided not to have the Browns in my list. I mean, I obviously agree that they were pretty good, but one team, I guess going into mine then. I like the Falcons draft class this year. I mean, I think the biggest thing was noticing that they just didn't have that first round pick. Obviously, last year's first round pick trade deals all kind of fell apart over the course of the offseason with one of their guys, right? But despite that, I think they got pretty good value with the picks that they had remaining. Obviously, I think the most fun story of this all is the Falcons getting Avian Terrell.
Yeah.
Um, right? It's like, and like people, I think, mocked Terrell to be more of a nickel corner just because he is 5'10", weighs 186. But I mean, like if you look at what he did at Clemson, like I mean, you could see that he has the ability to play on the boundary against like other competitive schools in college football, right? And so, while I mean, right, I mean, you obviously have AJ Terrell on one side, Mike Hughes is on the other, and then you got Billy Bauman Jr. as the current nickel, and so it's like really he has the ability to play both nickel or boundary, and so it's kind of just up to him to see if he can win out one of those positions. Then it'd be super awesome if he was able to play side by side on defense with his brother, obviously too. And then top of that, I was also a decent fan of the Zachariah Branch pick, especially like again you have limited picks in the draft, and then so in the 3rd round, I think there's a big run on wide receivers. I think in the 1st and the 2nd. And so getting a guy in the 3rd round, especially you lose Darnell Mooney in the offseason, I think. And so your wide receiver room is really thin, and you're able to pick up a guy who you think can compete for, a role behind Drake London, behind Kyle Pitts at this point, And so I think that was good there. And then obviously, I think the strength of this draft was more so depth positions down the board rather than trying to find starting gems necessarily. And so I think they did a good job, getting linebacker. They won linebacker twice, one defensive tackle, and then one offensive tackle. So just essentially upgrading your front seven / the trenches, which I think was probably a smart move if you didn't really have a lot of, I guess, high hopes for players further down the board.
Yeah, I think once you hit that beginning of the third round, like wide receivers just were flying off like flies. But I love what you recapped about Terrell and Branch. Every time I watched Zachariah Branch, I was really impressed with him. I did have other receivers ahead, but like I certainly think he can grow to be an amazing player. One guy to keep an eye on is Ontario Thompson out of Washington, who's 6'2", 306 pounds. He was their 6th round pick for the Falcons. I think he could be a really good rotational lineman to start, but he could certainly have a high impact player. You don't want to forget about those guys at the end of the draft. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, just because they were missing the first round pick and didn't have that much ammo, I wasn't. I probably didn't have the Falcons in my top 5 of draft classes I like. I do find it fascinating that Arion Terrell is reunited with his brother on the football team.
Yeah, and like part of it too, like these rankings, at least for me, obviously it's different for you versus me, is like what you're able to draft with the picks that you have, and so it's like it's easy to say to an extent the Browns had a fantastic draft, and think about all the picks that they had. I mean, like obviously stuff happened to get those picks, right? I mean, you look at the Jets, they have a plethora of picks. I feel like naturally we're inclined, to think that sometimes these teams are good. I mean, they should have good drafts simply just because of the draft capital. And so,
right. I'm just talking about too. I look at the middle of the board for the Falcons, and it's not like they didn't really stand out compared to some of the other draft classes I looked at. But knowing me, I look at round 3 through 6. Like, what are the type of players to pick through there? So, for example, my second team here is the Giants. They're probably my favorite draft class in the league with what they did. To get Arvell Reese to fall at 5, and almost everybody thought he would go 2nd overall to the Jets. And then you get Mayaga on top of that. Basically doing like a full-on exchange for Dexter Lawrence. Then you go ahead and get Colton Hood and Malachi Fields. That is a great get for your top 4. I don't think you can get a better first 4 picks unless you have better draft capital. Not only that, Jack Kelly from BYU could be a really, really good linebacker for that team. And he got picked in the 6th round, 190. No, that must be a typo. Because they said they got J.C. Davis and Jack Kelly at 193. They probably got one of them. But
they went Giants. They got them back to back, Davis and Kelly.
Oh, okay. So it was probably 194 or something. But okay, like Malachi Fields to get him at the 3rd round. That I really like that fit there, particularly because you have a really dynamic playmaker in Malik Neighbors, and now you kind of have your down the field seam stretcher in Fields. You could diversify your offense a lot, and you give Jackson Dart a really good weapon while also prioritizing protecting him. So I thought the Giants did a really, really good job here with the draft class.
Wax for hockey skates. Sorry, Nichols popped in.
You're good.
Some random thing. Okay. But yeah, no. Again, I feel like despite some, I guess, I think it's widely regarded that this draft class wasn't necessarily as strong as the year prior and probably what might be the following year. But I still feel like a lot of teams ended up having really good draft classes. Even the teams that I wasn't necessarily over the moon for, I was like, it's not bad because again, I look at this at the in the lens of not as strong of a class, plus teams are getting what appears to be solid depth behind starters if it is further down the board, which is cool because I don't know. But yeah. Okay. Going with my second team here that I liked, I chose the Pittsburgh Steelers, um, which I don't think this was necessarily like the most mind blowing draft class. I mean, what they had a later first round pick, and then they had, I mean, mid second, mostly late third rounders, late fourth, late fifth, sixth, and then early seventh round picks. So they never were on like the top of the board. Um, but I do think they got solid value. I'm a fan of them getting an offensive lineman, in the first round, especially. There's a crazy run on offensive lineman talent, I think, early on in this draft. And so getting a guy you think can be good, especially just like, I think even if you got guys that you think are good enough or at least all right in your offensive line, I think what made, like, I think back to teams that kind of dominate, and it's the ones that continuously try to spend some early picks on offensive line depth. Like I look at the Eagles, for example, right? Where it's like, for the longest time they've had a solid starting five, but then Jason Peters, he got to like being really old and started to regress, right? But they literally had a guy right below him. You look at they lose Jason Kelsey, and they have Cam Jurgens or whatever right playing back prior, and he's able to kind of plug in there. That's why they're able to be at least competitive pretty much every year. Like the offensive, I mean, obviously line injury. Also, like we could say, play call isn't necessarily as strong for the Eagles last year because their offensive line continues able to like recycle and get talent through the draft. They're able to be good, and so I think I look at that with the Steelers, especially like if you're not necessarily a huge fan of players within the draft. In my head, I'm like, I continuously say this is a weaker draft class. I mean, we'll probably get a lot of superstars from this regardless, and it's probably a bad take or whatever. But outside looking in, I think that's kind of the media consensus of it. So you get that. I'm a fan of Jeremy Bernard. He's not like the most dynamic of a wide receiver. Like he doesn't scream like I don't think he'll ever be like the upper echelon of superstar wide receivers, but I do think he can be a fantastic wide receiver number 2, where he's just like he can get open decently enough. He has decent enough hands where he's not dropping like open balls. But he has the ability to make some contested catches. So he's kind of like the jack of all trades wide receiver that I think when you got DK Metcalf, you got Michael Pittman Jr., you got a plethora of solid tight ends that you can rotate through. He's a guy that I think you can kind of just place wherever on your offense and kind of just balance things out. Even if if a guy gets hurt, you can plug him in there. If you just need, have 3 wide receivers on the field, you can fit him in there. And so I think that was a pretty solid pick there. Drew Allers, whatever to me. I mean, I don't know how long-term of a plan that is. I mean, we talked about this, I think, last week where I said I'm not a huge fan of, if you're not taking a quarterback in the first, just take him in the 7th with some of these hit rates. But, I mean, it adds extra competition of Will Howard and Mason Rudolph. So, I mean, I understand that value there. And then I think getting tight end Riley Nowakowski is an interesting pick. And I think with how many tight ends went in this draft, I think a lot of teams saw what like the Rams did last season. I know you were huge on this too, and are thinking that like, I mean, if you look at the Steelers, and it's a team that had a lot of tight ends last season, right? They had Jonnu Smith. I don't think he's on the team this year, but they had Jonnu Smith. They had Pat Freiermuth, and then they had Darnell Washington. And I think that was a decent part of their success, being able to run that. Obviously, had a weaker point of like power than what the Rams are obviously operating with last season. But see that, I think I look at the Bears and how they drafted Sam Roush, and it's like a lot of, I think, casuals are like, hey, this is a stupid pick with the Sam Roush pick. But then like, again, I think with how you were talking about the Rams last season, how the Bears were successful running both Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, and then Durham Smith, who was on the field 25% of the time apparently last season. So it's like, and you lose him. And so now you're getting that third kind of solid tight end that you can start rotating and try to I guess, mimic what was the MVP offense, right? And so with that, Indiana, obviously great school. I think you're getting, even if he doesn't like get a lot of play time this season, I think it's just kind of a trend that we're going to start seeing. And so I think a lot of these fourth, or I guess like a fourth, fifth, sixth round tight ends, while not maybe getting a ton of play time, we'll start to see more play time than what we've seen from a tight end 3 in the past couple of years. And so I think that's a solid pick from there too.
I think there's more emphasis on blocking. Like I know that's a really high trade of what you look for and when you're thinking about the best tight ends. And I think the league is starting to go towards that where they're prioritizing really good blocking because then you could just leak out a tight end to the flat. You can scheme them open. And you could have a really good running game. So you're seeing more and more teams lean into that. I kind of liked what the Steelers did too. I know the tackle they took wasn't really high up on people's boards, but he's a great prospect. Like he has a lot of like exciting tools to be passionate about, and doesn't have to start right away too, which is really nice. And I know you touched on that. Bernard, I liked for all the reasons you mentioned too. Great compliment to what Pittman and DK Metcalf will bring, and will bring way more help than relying on Kenneth Gainwell to be your number 2 or number 1 option at times during games. So I was a fan of Drew Aller as I was a fan of Garrett Nussmeier before the season started, and both players had tanked at the same time over the course of a year. So this is one of those moments where it's like, what better organization to be in than the Steelers, where they're like have a great franchise historically, and specifically with their head coach, he knows how to develop offenses. He might not be the best like play caller in the game right now, but like he's had a lot of offensive success with San Francisco, with Green Bay, with Dallas. And I think learning under Aaron Rodgers, trying to compete with the guys in the roster, like I still have a subjective hope that Drew Aller could be a good QB. And to get him at 76, I think is good value as well. So, I did like what the Steelers did. Well,
yeah. And the one last tidbit with the Steelers too is their last pick in the draft, which is Eli Heinrich from Navy. He was a guy I was kind of eyeing pre-draft, and I was really curious to see what round he would end up landing, because his rushing stats were pretty low, I guess, coming out of college. But when you look at his holistically at his college experience with playing football, is he was schemed a lot in the passing game for the team, and so it's like I think that's something to like take note of, at least, where he's a running back who might be exclusively put in for specific screenplays. You might see him as a guy that they put out into like the slot from the running back position. So I don't know. For all we know, because he's a seventh-round pick, he may not even make the roster, but it is just a guy potentially to look out for in certain, formations with clear kind of like running back target passing downs.
Absolutely. My last team is the Jets, and I know what you're going to say. Yeah, duh. They had 3 first-round picks. But I think what they did with those picks was even more impressive. I'm not even going to get into them right now. I think getting D'Angelo Pons, one of my guys, if you will, specifically for their scheme. Like I know I talked about the Lions as a potentially great fit. Who's their head coach? I'm forgetting. Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn's scheme is like perfect for D'Angelo Pons, and he came from Detroit. So I think that was a fantastic like player fit with the team. Kay Klubnik, another example of a guy who a lot of people were high on before the season started, and for whatever reason it didn't pan out. Getting him late was a good hedge. But specifically with Bailey, Sadiq, and Cooper, they're all really, really extremely talented players. Like Cooper, you needed a guy opposite of Garrett Wilson, and you got that. And Kenyon Sadiq could be a guy like that as well. I would have preferred Stowers, but I think for what the Jets are trying to build, this is a good selection. And David Bailey is going to instantly improve their pass rush. I think it was a good selection. You couldn't go wrong. I was expecting Reese, I'm not going to lie, but like splitting hairs between like talented linemen and what you need. Like, I think the Jets did a fantastic job.
Yeah. What's funny, was I remember, I think someone, like, after Pons was drafted, I saw someone say, like, it's funny, his NFL comp was Aaron Glenn or something like that. And so I was kind of laughing. I'm like, of course, But I'll just start off saying the Jets were also my number 3 team that I had listed here. So I agree with you here. I think a lot of people dissed on the David Bailey pick. But the way I see it is David Bailey is the more easy to like plug and play player, I guess, that you could draft at the number 2 spot versus like Reese. So I think we've seen the extraordinary player that he's not. I mean, there's a reason why everybody was mocking him at the number 2 pick overall, right? But I think it's a situation where it's like, well, he can play both pass rusher and off-ball linebacker, and so it's like, how do you want to manage, I guess, both of those strengths, going into this rookie year of his versus David Bailey, where it's like, well, we know he's just going to be our pass rusher. We don't have to try to change our scheme around Reese. And I mean, obviously, I think there are teams that are up to that type of challenge, but I think it's also smart to be like, we don't want to, I guess, mess around with how we want a guy to play either off ball or pass rush, or, if he develops better one way or the other, and then it kind of messes up how we want to go forward. And with David Bailey, it's just straightforward, plug and play, and you just kind of set and forget almost. And then, well, I wasn't super high on Kenyon Sadiq entering the draft. I mean, I was kind of dissing on him for a while. And I think is the fit isn't the worst, I think, of the first round teams. I think fantasy wise, I see why people might be down on it, just because like the Jets sometimes feel like a black hole for like talent, but I think it's part of this trend of loading up on tight ends, like I've been mentioning earlier, because last year I think they took, Mason Taylor.
Yes. Yep.
Pretty high in the draft, if I recall. And I think Taylor and Sadiq obviously will fit different roles in this offense. And I think we're going to see more of that, 12, 13 personnel. As I think we've you more so than me too, have been preaching kind of all off season. And then, we'll see. We'll see how Omar Cooper Jr. does here. I think taking him at the number 30 spot is a pretty safe late first round pick, for a wide receiver. And then obviously, you put me onto Pons more than anybody, I think. But I was excited to see where D'Angelo Pons ended up going. Cade Klubnik, quarterback, whatever to me. But obviously you're pretty excited to see how he works. And I think just with the Jets quarterback room, we might see an opportunity for him to get a couple games this season too, which I think might be exciting.
Yeah. All it takes is a couple of Geno Smith turnovers and frustration in the organization.
Yeah.
I definitely think the tight end thing is not going away. I think it's here to stay. All righty. Let's go into the class that we didn't like so much. I'll start with the 49ers. If they didn't have a first-round pick, I don't know who they picked, man. The only guy I recognize is Kalen Black. I know a lot of people like Stribling, but I don't see the fit on the rest of the guys, and I don't know how they're gonna help Brock Purdy like elevate his game and improve that defense. I know they spent a lot on the edge, defensive tackle, and then they did cornerback, linebacker. But I think the guys they picked there, they don't knock your socks off. So for me, just being unaware of who these players are, I automatically to the fault of like, I don't think these are great selections. Could they be completely Could Jaden Duggar be the best, like the next Red Warner? Who knows? But I'm not banking on that, and I think they missed big opportunity in this draft to kind of supplement all the young guys they've had and build on that.
Yeah. 49ers are also on my list of teams that I also did not like. And after this draft, one of my thoughts was in fact that like this is like a class on like in like a string of different draft classes that might get John Lynch fired. Because I think we look at like how the 49ers have drafted with John Lynch as GM, and like he hasn't really had any good draft classes, right? Like, I mean, because I think, what was it? Starting in, I think 2020 might have been John Lynch's first draft class. But there, I mean, you have Javon Kinlaw, who never really panned out. You have Ayuk, who played well, but obviously I'll give him that one. Colton McKivitz, Charlie Werner, Jawan Jennings, I guess is like, Jawan Jennings in 2020 in the 7th round might be like a top 5 John Lynch draft pick, which I think, he played well last season.
Yeah, no disrespect to Jawan Jennings, but you don't want to see that. You
Right?
don't want your top 5 pick to be in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm. Because what? Then we look at the following 2021 draft class: Trey Lance, bust; Aaron Banks, all right; Trey Sermon, bust; Ambry Thomas, bust; and then you get Hufanga in the 5th round. So I guess that's another one of your top 5 picks. 2022, Drake Jackson, bust; Tyron Davis Price, bust; Danny Gray, bust; Spencer Buford, all right, I guess. Spencer Romack, not like no. And then you get Brock Purdy, which I think is his best draft pick, but I think people widely consider that not even to be a specific like John Lynch draft selection, and like saying Brian Grease was like the more of the influence for that draft pick. You look at 2023. They didn't have a first or a second, but still, here you have Javier Brown, bust; Jake Moody, bust; Cameron Latu, bust; Darrell Luter, bust. What, your best pick might be D. Winters, linebacker from that class. 2024, you have Ricky Pearsall. When he's healthy, he's good, I guess. But then you got Renardo Green, whatever, Dominic Pooney, whatever, Malik Mufasa, whatever, Isaac Rendo, not that good. I'm just gonna label that way. Jacob Cowing has kind of been whatever.
You are going in, man. You are going in on this.
And then you look at the most recent class before this one, Micah Williams. Obviously these are guys going into year 2, but Micah Williams in the 1st round did not play that great. Alfred Collins was underwhelming as well. Nick Martin, rotational backup. Upston Stout, he
played pretty well at times last season,
right? Like at times, and so you have like 1 3rd-round pick here. CJ West, he had 1 sack in 14 games. Jordan Watkins, no stats. Jordan James, I think everybody was excited for, but didn't really do anything, And so, but we have Upston Stout, Ricky Pearsall, Malik Mufasa, and then we have Brock Purdy, and we have Hufanga and Aaron Banks as I think his pretty good draft picks since, and I guess Brandon Ayuk since 2020. And so I think there were, again, reaches here. Like Stribling, I think was mocked to go in the 2nd round, so I guess take your guy in the 2nd. But
would you pass on Denzel Boston in the process?
Right,
and CJ Parker. Like I probably would have gone CJ Parker there. Like who knows how Nick Bosa is going to look next season, and even if he does look good, you need some help around him too. So
right.
I would have probably gone Parker, or if you wanted receiver that badly, Denzel Boston. If I go to the 3rd round here, let's see. Who did they? And they picked Killon Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, not a bad selection, but like if you look at the guys around, like if you need receiver help, you have Chris Brazzell, like
Mm-hmm.
Malachi Fields got selected. Like you're starting to see the receivers come down the board. I think it was the fourth round where
Mm-hmm.
let's see, they took a Willis at offensive tackle, and then oh, Bryce Lance. They could have got Bryce Lance in the fourth round instead of
Mm-hmm.
spending a first round pick on a receiver. And I'd argue their team might be better off with Bryce Lance in the fourth round, and TJ Parker in the first. And
Mm-hmm.
he went after their fourth round selection. So, um, I just think the decision making at like who you're picking for the positions you're trying to address it. They're drafting for need, but they're not looking at best player available at that
Mm-hmm.
need. And
Right.
that's what's causing them to be in the they're in. It bears the question if he didn't hit on Brock Purdy, where would this team be right now?
Right. And it's like they played good football last season. But I think that was really on the hands of like Christian McCaffrey staying healthy the entirety of the season, Brock Purdy playing good football, and
Robert Saleh coaching out of his mind with a depleted roster.
right. And why is it depleted? Because they can't draft depth. Like, sure, it's like you only have so many you only so much high draft capital to get starters and whatever. But like the point of like rounds, what like 4, 5, 6, and 7 are typically you're hoping to find either quality special teams players or like decent enough backups that don't completely fall apart with your team and like
Right.
and it's like the whole conversation was like, oh wow, the 49ers are doing so great because their backups suck, but they're still playing good football. And like come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
All
that's
right.
why I
Do
was
you want to do
discussing.
the unique team then? Since I kind of stole your thunder with the San Francisco 49ers.
Wait, what was that?
Do you want to give another team then? Since I kind of stole your thunder with the 49ers.
Yeah. So I'll go to my second team here, and I'll probably say like the Houston Texans, maybe. Um, like I don't know if this felt like an underwhelming class. I mean, I guess like getting Caden McDonald at the top of the second. I mean, I kind of figured that's probably a move they might make. I mean, obviously it makes their team quite a bit stronger, but um, like I would have preferred. I don't know. Like honestly, the offense I felt like had such struggles, you know. And then like I don't even know if like Marlon Klein was that high for me in terms of like the tight ends necessarily. I mean, like I think there was other tight ends that I liked over Klein. Um, you know, that I was like, oh, maybe that was maybe a slight reach by the Texans there. I mean, like Rutledge was probably my favorite pick of theirs in this draft, simply just because their offensive line stinks. But I don't know. It wasn't like an all-time awful draft. It was just like I felt like certain. I don't know. It was either like reaches or like guys that I don't think really play up to like what they might need, you know. And so I mean, I don't have too much overall to say. And like I said, I think most of these teams in the league had pretty solid drafts, and so it's like I mean, you got at least one offensive lineman that I think Stroud should be happy with, but McDonald, it's like sure that's cool. Klein, sure, whatever. And then you get another offensive lineman in the fourth round. So I mean, good on you there. Um, don't think you needed linebacker. Take it in the fourth, maybe. Lewis Bond, I might guess, is probably a decent pick. I mean, you're at that point, it's a sixth round draft pick, but I don't know. That's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, outside the first two picks, like is kind of baffling decisions to be honest. Like
Mm-hmm.
line definitely not on my radar. And he could end up being a really good player, really good blocker for what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you needed to invest that high in him. I probably would have picked him on 106 or later and
Mm-hmm.
try to because if you look at see like who was on the board when they picked him, let's see here. Um, so McNeil Warren got picked the pick before him, and maybe they were trying to go with him, but they
Mm-hmm.
have really good safeties already, so that's puzzling to me. Let's see here. Didn't have a third round pick, right? Because they had like a 47 pick gap or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
right around with a pick. They they could have got Surratt, but they have a lot of young receivers already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That one's a little bit like I want to wait and see how their picks go from 59 and beyond. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I would be a little bit cautious with them.
Mm-hmm. Like outside of Rutledge, like I mean, obviously things are like coaching and whatever, but from like what I see outside of Rutledge, I don't know how much farther these other picks really push this team forward in terms of
I
like
think
getting.
McDonald pushes them a lot forward,
What was
considering
it?
who they have at the edges and then like D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, like,
I think he could be a plus to Tommy Togai, like how he
mhm,
was last season for them. So
yeah. I mean, it's just like, I mean, obviously, I think McDonald will be good, right? It just like you're already the number 2 defense in the league, like at
right.
least based off of like how last season kind of ended up going, and so it's like obviously he will be an impactful player, or at least he'll be a good player for this team. I think he'll fill a solid role in this defense, but then it's like I think the offense is where we saw them really fall apart last season. You know, the offensive struggles um, was kind of the big issue, right? And so, like Rutledge, I think is a great thing to address that. And then you go down the board, and I mean, I don't know, like necessarily if guys got sniped like right before them or not, but like I don't, you know. And so it's slightly underwhelming, but I think it comes down to, I mean, you got to trust the coaching process, I guess, for this type of draft class, and hopefully these guys at least can find like spots. Maybe, I mean, again, I say depth a lot for this draft class, and so maybe that's kind of the roles that they fill out. But again, for the offense that struggled, I felt like there was other ways to address those needs. But anyways, we can move on. What's your next team?
I'm gonna say the Rams,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not so much the fact they picked Ty Simpson top 15. It's part of the reason,
Mm-hmm.
but they had 5 picks going into this draft, and for a team that's at risk of losing Matthew Stafford, who knows when,
Mm-hmm.
Monte Adams, who knows when,
Mm-hmm.
and they invested a lot of capital in their secondary. I I don't like what they did with their picks and then like how
Mm-hmm.
they ended up in the position where they only had 5 picks in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ty Simpson, I thought you could have traded back and still
Mm-hmm.
got him, like well ahead of where the Cardinals or the Jets or potentially the Steelers might be interested in him. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the only other pick I liked was maybe CJ Daniels, but he
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of growing to do too. The other guys, they don't knock my socks off. And as far as like
Mm-hmm.
positions of need, I'd look at it and say, okay, you just invested a lot in your secondary from a free agency standpoint. What happens if one of them gets hurt? You don't really have a plan there. And then plus, when pick 93, they did not pick until like 104 picks later
Mm-hmm.
at 197, 3 rounds later. And you lose opportunities to bolster your talent when you wait that long between picks, where you could have got guys that could reasonably help your roster, and you could have traded down from 61 or 93 to fill in like
Mm-hmm.
picks at 4 through 5 with more talent that could help your team. But
Mm-hmm.
you extremely limited yourself with a low number of picks, plus like the decisions you made at those picks at the very beginning of the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like yeah, it's kind of funny almost to me that like Ty Simpson might be the best draft pick of this group, and like at the bare minimum, I can see why they'd at least spend a first round pick going after Ty Simpson. because it's like however many years Stafford has left, and then you get to like use the fifth year option. It's just with the fact that he is a first round quarterback. Kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we look at Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, right? Where it's like, it was a nice thing, at least for the Packers, to have that fifth year option.
Right.
Dealing with a guy who didn't necessarily play the entirety of his rookie contract. Yeah, well, and then going on, yeah, like it would have been nicer to see, at least for the second round, try to go wide receiver. I think over Max Clare. Like I understand, like Tyler Higbee's contract ends next season, and he's already 33 years old, right? And so it's like, and your whole thing is you have a ton of tight ends on your team like that. Like it seems like the league is going to try to copy this whole 12-13 personnel system that the Rams have got going. And so I can see some of that, but then like I felt like in general, like tight end, like a ton of tight ends were drafted this year. And so it's like, were there guys further down the board that maybe would take more time to development potentially that you like would like to see on the team, you know? But I guess Max Clare, it was their guy, and so they went for that. But I don't know, it feels similar to what I was saying with like my last team, where it was like with the Texans, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I can see why they drafted some of these guys, but it's kind of questionable calls, and it was kind of, was there better like needs, I guess, that you could address? And I mean, it's hard to necessarily say that for a team like the Rams or the Texans, right? Just with how loaded. I mean, the Texans, I mean, fell apart in the playoffs, but like the rest of the season, I think you could say that like both the Rams and the Texans were really dangerous teams to go against. And so, like, what could you realistically like need? Like, you know, I mean, it's a lot of draft because you just want to draft these guys because you don't need to like fill other like positions, I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah. I just wasn't a fan of like how they approached the draft. On top of some of the players who selected. But, yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. I'm wondering if they should have waited for like guys like Sam Roush and other guys that slid down the board at tight end.
Yeah.
Rather than make it that high early, I think they could have gone in a different direction there. But do you have any other teams on your list?
Yeah. So for my last team, I'll say the Minnesota Vikings was another group I wasn't super positive about. I mean, I think their best pick was Jake Golday, the linebacker from Cincinnati. I think he's going to be pretty like instant plug and play, or like a pretty soon like Eric Wilson replacement. I know I talked a lot about how like I really liked Eric Wilson last season. Like he was one of the huge contributors to the Vikings defense.
He's a really rangy linebacker, so it's perfect for what Flores is trying to do.
Right, and so it's like even if like Golday doesn't play this season, like I think he will. I think he'll see like opportunities at least to get like into the rotation and potentially like replace Blake Cashman potentially sooner than later. I mean, Cashman is a guy that's like I don't know, he's a solid tackler. I think he struggles in coverage sometimes, and so I think you just can get a potentially better version of Cashman with Golday, which I do like. But then like I think Caleb Banks is taken a bit high, you know, and then like on top of that you draft Big Citrus Dominique Orange in the third round, and it's like I would have preferred they spend that first round, like if they're planning on getting Orange, Big Citrus in the third, like spend that first round pick.
You love that nickname.
Yeah, Big Citrus, you like it. But like if you're gonna spend two of your first 3 picks going for like a nose tackle player, like it feels like it's one of those where it's like you expect maybe one of these guys not to pan out. And I mean, like a potential case could have been like Orange fell to them, and it's like, well, the guy that we have like so high in our minds, I guess, fell to us here. I guess we just should draft him anyways. But then at that point, it's like, is there no one better in the 3rd round to fill like another need? I think a position they could have went after was wide receiver. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, arguably one of the probably like a top 10 duo, a wide receiver duo in the league, at the very least. But then it's like you lose Jalen Naylor, who's a solid enough wide receiver 3. So now you're left with Ty Felton, Deshaun Jones, Miles Price, Dante Fleming, Joaquin David.
Well, they could have got Mekhi Lemon in the 1st round if they wanted wide receiver.
Right, like
I mean, went ahead and did that. Forget the 3rd round wide receivers. They chose to pick Banks over Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, and then on top of it all too, it's like I think a lot of people expected the Vikings to go Thieneman with that 1st round pick after losing.
I think we mocked him there too.
Right, and so it's like, I mean, what you in the 3rd round you do go Jacoby Thomas. I mean, who could play well here in his pre-draft analysis. It says he's a really good box safety, but like, I mean, I guess Harrison Smith could really do everything at the safety position. I mean, his name was like the Hitman for a reason, right? And so obviously, like, you're able to, I guess, cover for that big thumper safety kind of build with that pick. But I feel like, I mean, I think regardless, it'll be hard to replace Harrison Smith's impact, or at least his loss on this, from retiring. But I think you would have been better served taking Thieneman maybe with that 1st round pick. You could still potentially get Dominique Orange, and you still have the 33rd and the 34th pick in the 3rd round. And at that point, I'm like, maybe one of those, I mean, I guess with that Thomas pick, then you could go and basically draft any of the wide receivers that were taken past the 4th round, really, And I think that would have been a better way to, I guess, have their draft board fall. I mean, it ended up falling, right? But yeah. So,
I will say this one guy I really, really like that they got in the 6th round, Damon Claiborne. I think he could be something if he's given the opportunity. I just think there's a lot in front of him with Aaron Jones and then the other back behind him that they just got last in free agency.
Yeah, Jordan Mason.
Yeah, Jordan Mason. So unless something happens with like Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason, I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time, but he's a very talented back and a sleeper I like a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the middle of the season we're talking about Claiborne starting running back for the Vikings. So keep your eye on him. But as in regard to the rest of the class, I largely agree with what you were saying about the draft class. Didn't really agree with it either.
Yeah. Like, I mean, at the very least, I can assume that a decent chunk of these guys might get some play time, like you said. Damon Claiborne, I think, could see play time. Caleb Banks feels like he should be the starter here, right? Jake Goldie, I think, will be rotated in. Dominique Orange, big citrus. I think.
Well, the big worry with Banks is health, right?
Right, and so I mean, I guess that's why you get.
That's not really like a clean bill of health. Like, and you're picking him top 20. Yeah, that's the big concern with a guy like that. Ultra talented, don't get me wrong, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, which is why I guess you get big citrus, right? Because like, yeah. But then at that point, it's like if you're so worried about the health of Caleb Banks that you're gonna take your insurance pick in the 3rd round, like, I don't know, it reads as questionable and unsure drafting to a certain extent. But yeah.
All right. Last team for me, Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know what the heck they did. I like Pregnon at guard. Pretty much everything else, I was like, okay, they did pick Josh Cameron too. But outside of that, I didn't really agree with their strategy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a first round pick because they traded up for Travis Hunter. Fortunately, it didn't work out the way they hoped that rookie season. We'll see if the full time
Mm-hmm.
corner move ends up panning out for them or if they have to pivot. Didn't agree with their first selection at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not a tight end I had on my radar. And a lot of the picks they've had on like the defensive side, not really doesn't really scream like this will solve the problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the two picks to really pay attention to, Pregnon and Koziel, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to a third guy, Josh Cameron. But outside of that, I was
Mm-hmm.
really disappointed with how Jacksonville used the limited resource they had since they gave away their first round pick.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I mean, you even look down like further the board, and they go tight end a second time, and
Right.
obviously like a guy that you view as a second round versus a fifth round caliber tight end will be different players in your own like eyes through the coaching room and everything, but like I don't know, it is read as a questionable thing.
Like they passed on McNeil Warren in the second
Mhm.
round, but they picked this tight end. And
Right.
2 rounds later, they picked, or not even 2 rounds later, a round later, they picked Jalen Husky.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't agree with that selection at all. And then if you go into the third round to see what they did, when they picked Jalen Husky, last pick. Okay, so last pick of the third round. So really, it's a fourth round pick. They could have got McCoy. At that spot, I don't think it's a reach or a risk to take McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
They pass out on him for Husky. And let's look at round 5. Did not have a fifth round pick? Oh no, that's when they picked Koziel. So that wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like I look at those two situations and I'm like, what's their philosophy? Because if they want to go like tight end, that's not the tight end I would pick. If they
Mm-hmm.
want to go secondary, that's not the secondary player I would pick. Like I've just felt like they had other needs and strengths that they could have leaned into that they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah. It'll be like, and then also I think, I mean, another aspect is I was surprised they didn't even take like a late round running back. It's not like the end of the world necessarily for me, but it's like your rushing game, right, is going to be fully reliant on Bashal Tutin, Chris Rodriguez, and LaQuint Allen. Like,
I think they're really high on Chris Rodriguez. That's what that tells me.
Right. I mean, like I too am high on Chris Rodriguez. I think this can be a solid running back room, but like, I mean, it's a lot of, I guess, question marks at the running back position, to the point where it's like it could be an incredibly dangerous, like backfield or whatever, or we could kind of have the meh mix that was the Steelers backfield last season, where it's like, I mean, sure, there's Kenneth Gainwell's all right enough, Jalen Warren's all right enough, Caleb Johnson played like 2 games, but like, I mean, it's like I think Bashal Tutin is an exciting like prospect, I guess, because I mean we didn't really see an incredible amount from him last season, but I mean he does feel like a dynamic.
Yeah.
Chris Rodriguez, he was good at like after getting yards after contact, and then I think LaQuint Allen, heading into the season, was regarded as like an exciting guy to watch out, like a late round pick to watch out for. So I think they took him in the 6th last season, 6th or 7th. That's like my sleeper agent numbers, But anyway,
man, you did that on purpose.
I didn't, and then I caught it, and then I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Anyways, but he was a guy that I think a lot of people were excited to see play. He happened to be buried behind Travis Etienne having a huge resurgent season, and then Bashal Tutin, whenever he got play time, he seemed to be a good change of pace for that offense. And so now it's like, can Tootin or Chris Rodriguez kind of like fill the gap that or Travis Achan, not ETN, left behind after leaving the Saints.
Yeah. Regardless, I think the Jaguars are upward trajectory. I just think they missed out on a chance to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunate to see.
Mm-hmm.
Any other teams you have on the docket? The honorable mentions?
No, I think what I got. I mean, we kind of had like a combined 49ers, but so I had those are kind of like 49ers, Vikings, and the Texans are kind of my three.
Hey, sweet. That's it for us, guys. You can follow us on our Instagram at amon.a.mission. Full-length videos at the Amon Mission YouTube channel. Yeah, we're probably going to take a light period now between the draft and the summer series. We'll get planning on that, but lots to look forward to now that the draft is done. I'm going to keep my eyes on the UDFAs, see which ones stand out, and get my studying there to see if there's any gems we could peel from that. But Corstian, what are you looking forward to this offseason now that the draft is over?
Well, now I feel like there's a lot of high-profile free agents still in the mix, and now that the draft's over and kind of teams have settled into those picks, it'll be interesting to see where some of those guys end up landing. So that's kind of cool.
I'd be curious about Stephon Diggs.
Right? Like Stephon Diggs. Wait, sorry. Top remaining NFL free. Just quickly, I'll see if I can see like a mini list. Yeah, like Jawan Jennings, Joey Bosa, AJ Epineza, DJ Reader, Diggs, Debo Samuel.
David Njoku's not.
Yeah, David Njoku still. Kyle Van Noy, even though he's pretty old now. So I mean, there's I think a couple interesting players in this mix. So it'll be interesting to see I think Jawan Jennings is kind of the most exciting just because he's not 30 years old yet. But yeah.
All right. Sweet. That'll do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, and we'll see you soon.
Peace. Yeah.